What's up YouTube? I'm Michael. Behind the camera is Ellie. We are the Bill Paying Hobbyists. We're using our hobbies and skill sets to keep our debt down and to save up for a down payment on a house. If you like what we're doing, if you're enjoying it, please subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button and share it with all your friends. We really appreciate it. And if you want, make sure you hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when we drop our videos every Thursday. What am I doing in the closet? Well, we have a, that sounds really wrong, Ellie. I can't believe you wrote that.
I wrote that into the script on purpose.
We got a really fun video for you today. It's actually St. Paddy's Day, so we wanted to do something a little different and take you behind the scenes and do a get ready with me video. These are the t-shirts that I have to pick from. And remember, we got to pick something that goes with the theme of our video. And these are my hats. So we're going to pick one of those shirts and one of those hats, and we're going to have something that coordinates with the theme of this week's video. I'm just kidding. Let's go make a pen. Come on. We got a great video today. It's going to be about St. Patrick's Day, and we're making a pen, and we want to go back to the basics and just go step by step and show you how we make a pen to teach you in case you're a beginner and just getting started. Please excuse the lighting. Please excuse the sound. We are kind of under a tornado warning, and the garage doors are closed, and it's kind of dark in here, and you'll probably hear a lot of rain and thunder and lightning, but we're going to continue anyway. So let's get to it. Besides the machinery and stuff that you're going to need to make any pen kit, you're going to need some basic items. And four of the basic items you need are a pen kit, you're going to need your bushings, you're going to need a drill bit that goes for that pen kit, and you're going to need a blank. St. Paddy's Day, we're using this green and white blank. It's going to look so good. First thing we need to do is we need to cut our blank to the length of our tube. So we're going to go over to the bandsaw and we're going to cut that down. All right, before you get started, the first thing you want to do is you want to cut your blank down to the size of your tube, because I have so much extra. And sometimes when you buy your blanks, they're 5-6 inches long. You don't want to use all that because you certainly don't want to drill through all of it. You could use your blank for a different pen, which is going to require a different drill bit. For me, I'm going to use this jig. My dad designed this jig and there's plans for it. I'll provide a link where you can go download them if you need them. I can't just tell you how to make this one because it's set for your particular saw. If you don't have a bandsaw, you can use a handsaw to cut these. I would recommend something like a, what is that thing called?
A blade saw, a chop saw, a table saw, a jigsaw, a hand saw, a hacksaw. Hacksaw. I would recommend you use a hacksaw because with the metal blade on it, it will, this stuff is brittle. It'll break. That metal blade will help cut it faster if you're going to use a handsaw. And really, all you have to do when you cut these, get an idea how long your tube is and give yourself another 1/8 of an inch to a 1/4 of an inch. A 1/4 inch is a little long, so anywhere in between 1/4 and 1/8 of an inch. Extra thing. Good thing about me, I have this jigsaw. No. Bandsaw.
Bandsaw. Good thing for me is I have the bandsaw and I have this, Miss Thesaurus over there. And this jig so that I can cut it. Basically, the jig works like this. The tube goes here, and this is my gauge. So it goes right there up against my tube, and then my blank goes here, and then I cut. This is a fine adjustment knob, so I'm gonna make it a little bit longer because this is acrylic and they tend to crack and blow out, and I want a little bit of extra space in case it does when I go to drill. All right, so there we go. That's set up, and now I can just cut this, and it'll be just a little bit longer than the tube. So you know how I'm holding this. I'm holding my gauge down like this, and I'm actually pushing that way a little bit with it, and then I'm touching this with my finger and I'm pulling my blank into the gauge. Just a little bit longer. And you always want to cut before you drill your hole because now I can use this to make beads for Ellie. And let's go to the drill press. Before you get started in drilling your blank, you need to find as close to the center as you can of your blank so that you can get as much meat before you're turning. It's very easy to do that. I just take a straight edge. This is just a piece of 1/4 inch plywood, and I draw a line from corner to corner, corner to corner. Where they intersect will be the center. That's going to be the center. Generally, when you're drilling, if you've done any kind of drilling into wood or anything else, you know that your drill bit's going to wander. So to prevent that from happening, just take an awl and a hammer, my 1950s hammer, put it on your point, Grandpa Art, and give it a little tap. You do not want to hit it very hard. All you want to do is make a little indentation on your blank. If you hit it too hard, this is acrylic, it's plastic, it will break. And then you just need to find a new blank. I have this fancy dancy pen blank vise. You don't have to use one of these. You can make one of these. I do not have a plan for this. My dad made this. I'm gonna set that in there. And I need to tighten that up. Just a little bit of pressure, not a lot, but I wanna make sure it's down tight and touching that stick. There we go. My 3/8 inch drill bit, and I wanna make sure that my drill bit's gonna go all the way down. All right, is that gonna go all the way through? It will. And then we wanna make sure the drill bit is straight. Good to go. If you do not have a drill press, you can use your lathe. Just make sure that when you drill your hole on your lathe, you put it at about 600 RPM. And when you drill, go slow. Don't try to force it all the way through. Just take your time. You don't want to heat up the plastic any more than you have to. She's learning. There we go. All the way through. So let's go back over to the workbench and we're gonna glue our tube into the blank. All right, here we are at the workbench. I'm not gonna glue on here. I don't want to get glue all over my mat, so let's get that out of the way. Blank, tube. For gluing up, I like to use JB Weld. It's a 2-part epoxy, 5-minute epoxy. You mix it up for 30 seconds. You have about 5 minutes of working time. It says it's ready in about an hour. I like to let it sit overnight and give it plenty of time. So, get a little bit of part A on here. All right, before we glue this in, this tube is already sanded and it's got the striation, what do you call those things? Little sanding lines, striations, there you go. Sanding lines already in it. Sometimes you'll get a tube that is smooth. If it's smooth, just take some 120 grit sandpaper and rough it up. You want these lines in here for the epoxy. You need something for it to adhere to and get in those grooves, and it helps hold that into your blank. Cover it up almost all the way up to the top. I don't mind if I get it on my fingers. When you put it in, just rotate it, pull it in and out, get good coverage on it. And then stick it in there and wipe this excess off out of my way. I want to make sure I'm down just below the edge of my tube or my blank. I don't want it showing because at some point I'm going to square this off. So it's inside a little bit, and then now we let it dry. See you tomorrow. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go wash my clothes first because I gotta wear these tomorrow. It's St. Paddy's Day. Just had time to dry, so we're ready to go and get it turned on the lathe. Before we do that, sometimes residual glue or epoxy will get inside your tube, so I just take an X-Acto knife and I like to carve it out and make sure it's nice and clean so that my bushings can seat properly. A lot of people do it differently. Some people will use beeswax. They'll put it in the tube before they even glue it together. Some people use a pen mill. I do mine a little different, but that's cleaned out now. So now we're ready to put it on my lathe. This is my 12 by 21 jet lathe. That means I can cut something 21 inches long, 12 inches in diameter, like a plate, bowl, whatever I want to do. This is the headstock. This is where the motor is. This is where the belt is. The motor's down there, and it turns, and it's the head. This is the pen mandrel with a number 2 Morris that goes in there. It has about an 8-inch long shaft, 1/4 inch diameter, a little bit less. This is my tailstock, and this is the mandrel saver, and it, free spinning, does what it says it's going to do. It's a saver. If I'm cutting, you can see how that flexes. If I push too hard, this is gonna bend and this stuff's gonna go flying everywhere. It's gonna hit you, it's gonna hurt. This, when I put this over, now it has something to stay and it stabilizes this end. So it doesn't cause any problems for me later on. When you rest your chisel on your tool rest, I'm using my finger here, and that's gonna slide back and forth. My thumb holds my chisel back and forth just like this. I want the blade of my chisel to be in the center of this shaft. You always want it in the center of whatever it is you're cutting. Don't tilt it so that your blade goes down. Don't tilt it so that your blade goes up. Keep it level and just go back and forth. Nice, easy, slow passes. This is the control center of my lathe. This is the digital readout. It shows me how fast it's turning per minute, revolutions per minute. This is my speed control knob, my power switch, and my directional switch. For turning pens, and since I'm on this side of the lathe, I keep it in forward. It can also go in reverse, but I keep it in forward. This is the power switch. This is a safety switch. If this safety switch is out, my lathe will not work. With the safety switch in, I'm going to turn it all the way down to the slowest speed, turn it on, and my lathe will turn at around 188 revolutions per minute. I can turn it all the way up, and it will turn up to around 3,650 revolutions per minute. Now we just take our bushings. I have some old bushings that I use as spacers to get me away from my headstock and my tailstock. So this is an old one here, an old bushing from a pen. This comes with your mandrel. This one will come with your mandrel when you buy one. You get 3 or 4 of them. So I keep that on there. And then these are the bushings that are for this kit. Put one of those on. I put my blank on, seat that in there nice and tight. And I'll take my other one, slide that in, and another spacer. Gets me out away from it all. Now I want to tighten that down. And then I want to turn this a little bit, make it a little bit tight. That way this will turn, and when I'm cutting it doesn't get caught, it doesn't catch while everything else is spinning. I want it tight, but I don't want it too tight, because if I get it too tight, it's gonna flex and it's gonna be out of round, ugly pen. Tool rest, slide that over, get it close, and now we're ready to turn. I'm probably gonna turn this one at about 3,000, maybe 2,800. Using my round chisel that I almost cut myself on. Carbide tip, there you go. All I want to do first is get it round. Nice, slow, easy cuts. Just like when you're drilling, you don't want to turn it too much. You want to make sure that your blank doesn't get hot, because then it gets soft and yucky. You see how these pieces start getting longer and longer as you get more round on your blank, the longer these pieces are going to get. When it starts to happen, you can pull them off, or you can just take a toothbrush, knock it out of the way. Then nice long string. That means I'm round. See? Round. Now I need to make my ends square and even with the tube. All right, so this is a piece of 3/4 inch plywood screwed onto the backer plate that screws onto your headstock. I believe this is 120 sandpaper. Yep, 120 sandpaper. And I can get rid of my mandrel saver. The mandrel's already off. This is a chuck, number 2 Morse that goes into my tailstock. And this is an off-center jig that is awesome for this application. That goes in there, and then you take a drive pin like this, and I'll put all this stuff in the description down below. Slides in here. So then I take the drive pin, I put that in there, I bring it all the way back and rest it so it hits my chuck. This makes this perpendicular to this, and I want to sand it down till the blank is even with the tube. And what's going to happen is when I start sanding it, the end of the tube is going to be shiny. And I'm going to turn my lathe down to about 1,300. You don't want to sand at 3,000, that's just crazy. You'll heat up your blank and then you're just ruin it. 1,300. All right, I get it close, lock it down, make sure that's locked, and then I just slide it over. Right there, sound just changed. I hit the metal. Now, see how that's nice and shiny? That means I'm done. This side's not shiny. Shiny. Gotta do that side. Same thing. Tube and blank are even. And you might be asking, why didn't I do this first? Well, if I do it first, when the blank is still square, I'm sanding a lot more and it's gonna take a lot longer. And I'm wearing out my sandpaper faster. Ellie asked me to clean up so the pups could come out. So I did that and I got the vacuum hooked up, so I'm gonna talk now. The goal here is to get my ends as close to the bushings as possible because this is the diameter of my pen kit. I can make it straight if I want to all the way across, but I'm gonna give it a little bit of a bevel, kind of a little hump right here, very slight. I'm not gonna take it all the way down to the bushings with my carbide tip because I don't wanna cut my bushings. I will sand from there. Also don't wanna sand my bushings, so we'll show you how to do that. I'm gonna turn the vacuum on and we're gonna cut the rest of it. All right, so I am very, very close. I'm gonna stop cutting now. It is not completely down to the bushings. As you can see, my nail still catches on it just a little bit. But I'm gonna change these out because I don't wanna sand my bushings. I wanna keep them as close to the diameter they're supposed to be as possible. So here's what we're gonna do. And I still need my vacuum, so we're gonna get rid of these bushings. I'm not gonna get rid of them, we're just gonna get them out of the way for the moment. I'm actually gonna turn that one around. And I'm gonna use these bushings.
Sacrificial bushings?
Sacrificial bushings, Ted. There's two ways you can do this. Our step now is to sand, and we want to get it as close to the diameter of these bushings as possible. I use a caliper. If you don't have a caliper, you can just take your time and sand a little bit, take this apart, take the bushing and put it up against your tube to check the diameter and make sure it's nice and smooth. Since I have the caliper, we're gonna do that. And we're gonna check it. This one is 15-30 seconds. 15-30 seconds. I wanna get the ends of my tube down to 15-30 seconds. So I'm gonna lock this down and then I can turn that off and I can make sure I'm gonna save my battery. So I turn my lathe down to about 1300. Piece of 1/4" Luan. Get that out of my way. And this is 180 grit, and I'm not gonna push hard because I don't wanna put grooves in my blank. It makes it so much harder to get out. And I just use this to help, you know, get rid of any edges from when I was using my chisel. And I'm just gonna, see I'm only sanding right there right now. That's why I'm using this, it'll help flatten it out. Once I see it all turn white, then I know I'm getting all of it. I need to turn my vacuum on. So I'm gonna turn my vacuum on to collect all this dust. No more talking for me. Now that I've gotten it down to size and I sanded all of this flat, you saw where it all went white. Now I'm just gonna go the length of the tube because I wanna get rid of all these circular lines. All right, so I'm gonna wipe this off. When I do, I pull this on my finger nice and tight, this rag, and I keep the loose out of here. If it gets caught up in here, it's gonna snatch your finger up in there, wrap it all up, and it's gonna hurt. Now I'm gonna sand with some 320. Turn the lathe back on. After I sand with the 320, I have these foam pads. One is 500 and one is 1500, and that's what I'm gonna sand with dry before I do any of my wet sanding. 320, I'm gonna do my lines, wipe it off, then the 500, then the 1500, same thing. I sand it, go a long ways with each grit, and wipe it down. Now it's time to polish, and we're gonna use wet sanding for that. Using water on steel, I'm going to protect my lathe. So I'm going to put some towels down on the bed of my lathe, some rags. Don't need my toothbrush anymore. And that goes there. For this one, I'm going to use what is called Zona paper. This is my little cup for water. And there is this Zona paper. It's 1 through 6, 6-step process. You start with 1, and it's a very fine sandpaper. I'm not really sure the grits. I believe it goes like 400, maybe to 10,000, 12,000. It could be more. I haven't actually done the research on it. My dad loves this stuff. He gave it to me. So we get it wet and we polish it up. And I'm actually going to do this one at probably at about 1800. Now that the wet sanding is done, we're going to polish it up. Today I'm using plastics. It is plastic, why not? So for that I have the shop towel, or the shop paper towels. I just rolled it up and then I cut them into about 1 inch wide. Use them for my CA glue and for plastics. So we're just going to take a little bit, put it on the end, like that, and put it on there.
Wax on, right hand. Wax off, left hand. Wax on, wax off.
One last little thing I like to do with all my pens, put some Renaissance wax on them. It gives it a shine. It also adds a little bit of protection as far as fingerprints and things of that nature. It is a pen, it's going to get fingerprints. It doesn't take a lot. This little piece, it's like spandex material. That's it. That's all I'm going to do. Boom. I'm going to put that on there, a little bit of force, not a long time, and let it sit. More and more wipe with the microfiber. And that is super, what is that? Super shiny Lucas fuzz. All right, that's all done. So now we're going to use my lathe to press this together. There's many ways you can do it. You can actually use your drill press too. It's a vertical press, actually a little bit more natural and easier to use. I have these 2 pieces that I turned on my lathe a while ago, and I have a taller one and a shorter one. The tall one goes in my headstock, the shorter one goes in my tailstock. Pretty easy to do. Let's zoom out a little bit. Here's our pen kit. I'm gonna put that there. That's our spring, ink cartridge, tip, and the end cap. Now, first thing we want to do, down inside there is a little Phillips head screw. We want to make sure that's tight because that controls the pivot in this, and if it's loose, this is going to flop around and eventually fall off. And you want to do this before you put your pen together. So I'm going to take this screwdriver right here. It actually fits in there, hold it, and I'm going to give it a good turn to make sure it's tight. This is my tip. Gold, man, it's going to be nice. All right, for this one, I'm going to take the actual tip off. Don't drop it, put that there. I'm going to do this part first. What side do I want in the back? I think the lines make it flow pretty good this way. So what do we want to show? Is there anything we want to hide with a clip? Not much of a clip to hide. You can also take this little cap off because that's very, it dives down in, it's very strong. So we want to get this out of the way because we don't want that little tip right there scratching our tube. There's little notches right here that this part of your pocket clip fit onto. Put that back on. And remember, it went right here anyway, and that's pretty much the natural place you want it to go. And we said this way. No, we said this way. So the clip's gonna be right in here somewhere. I think we put it right there. The clip pretty much line up right there with that line and kind of give it a straight line. That'd be kind of cool. So we're gonna put that there. I'm gonna slide that over there, and actually remember I gotta put my tip on too. So put it about right there. Lock that down. Crink, 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 crink. And I'm just gonna press it together. Boom, that's together. Just like that. Done. Back that out. Tip, doesn't really matter where it goes. It's kind of ambidextrous there. And press, press, press. Bad part about soft wood. Pressed right into it. It's not seated all the way. Easy way to fix that. This may also be pine, but it's 1/4 plywood and it generally is not as soft when it comes to that. So we want to do it that way. Put that on there so I can get that closed all the way up. Now I have no gap. Perfect. And it follows that line. Boom, pretty good, huh? Looks pretty decent. All right, now the ink cartridge. PSI did a pretty good job on this. Take your tip off. What they did for this kit, this spring, this is a bigger end than that, and it's just slightly a little bit smaller. Your cartridge has a little notch right there, gets a little bit bigger, small taper. So you take that small end and you slide it over your tip like that, and it holds a spring on your cartridge so that when you change it, you don't have to worry about losing it, or when you take the tip off, the spring doesn't go pew and fly away. If it's not seated all the way, you can see that right there. See how that's not seated all the way? You want to turn it just a little bit till it falls in. Boom, right there. So it's all the way down. Now I'm going to put my lever all the way down, and it makes it very easy for my tip to go on. Get that on there. And our St. Paddy's Day pen is done. Let's go get some pictures. It's numbers time. We're gonna sell it for $68. That's gonna give us a profit of $20. Not a bad little profit for a beautiful pen for St. Patrick's Day. If you enjoy what we're doing here and you like it, you're learning something, or you're getting ideas to help with your budget, please subscribe. It will really help us out. Don't forget to share. That also helps us. It's awesome. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell. You'll get notified every time we put out a new video, which is Thursdays. Yes, we drop our videos on Thursday. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you on the next one. We love you. Come on, guys, let's go. Oh, hey, happy St. Patrick's Day.